Hi guys, like night follows day, Donald Trump has U-turned of sorts on his tariffs once again. So a few days ago, the US president said that he was angry with Europe, probably because they didn't buy his scam coin in order to lift the tariffs on imports from the EU. Trump, following the threat to impose the tariffs, said that he wasn't interested in doing a deal with Europe, but wanted manufacturing to switch to the US from the EU, which of course doesn't make any sense. Now it seems Trump has changed his mind once again.
The president said just a few days ago that he wasn't looking for a deal with Europe. What changed?
Yeah, and it seems to have been this conversation that the president held yesterday with the president of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen. This was actually the first time that the two leaders had talked since President Trump took office, which is somewhat surprising given all of the trade tensions between the U.S. and the European Union. In this call, they were essentially able to discuss some of the differences between the two sides as these talks proceed. And there are some significant differences. From the European perspective, there is some confusion about what exactly Trump is looking for in order to lift some of these tariffs. U.S. officials have complained that the Europeans aren't bringing them serious enough offers as part of these trade talks. And in this call, Ursula von der Leyen essentially told the president that yes, she was serious about reaching a trade deal, but that they would need more time, that they would need until July 9th, which is the date that President Trump agreed to. We should say that this is actually the original deadline that President Trump set in order to reach all of these trade deals. That is when that 90-day negotiation period with all of these countries will expire. So essentially the president here saying that he would revert to that original timeline in order to prevent these new tariffs from going into effect.
And Claire, to you, how is the European Union responding?
Well, I think they're treading very carefully, Alex. We see that in the conciliatory tone that came out of that call. Ursula von der Leyen describing it as a good call, saying Europe is ready to advance talks swiftly and decisively, and calling this the most consequential and close trade relationship. I think that's a bit of a shift from the rhetoric we saw from the EU trade chief on Friday, who said that deals should be made with respect and not threats. Because now, even though the timeline has been extended, they have 44 days to try and reach a deal with not a 20% reciprocal tariff, but a 50% reciprocal tariff hanging over them. And I think, as Kevin alluded to, they now have to figure out what exactly to offer the Trump administration to prevent further escalation, because some of the points on the table, these non-tariff barriers that the Trump administration takes issue with, things like value-added tax, digital services tax, those are decided at a national level and will be much harder to agree with member states. Plus, the negotiating problem that the US side has talked about, in the words of Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, the fact that you have these 27 member states in the European Union represented from sort of centrally in Brussels, has made negotiating more difficult. That also will not be resolved overnight. So perhaps something involving more investment in the US. President Trump hinted that is something.
Okay, when we talk about investment, of course, we're talking about buying, Donald Trump's scam coin, or allowing, the other way, allowing Trump to build a casino or something in a European country. So I think the problem here for Europe is that as it's negotiating with Trump, if it's a negotiation after all, as it's negotiating with Trump, it's negotiating on behalf of 27 member states. Trump would prefer to negotiate with countries individually, because he could say, well, individual countries, you come here, you buy my scam coin, you give me a gift of a plane or something like that, and then I'll remove these tariffs. But the European Union, while member states may perhaps consider acting in that way, the European Union can't act in that way. It has to act in a serious way. And this is probably the stumbling block. Trump wants Ursula von der Leyen to go there and kiss his ring and say, yes, dear Donald, what I'll do is I'll offer you a jet, or I'll offer you a favorable deal where you can, build your casinos or whatever in Europe. This is what he wants. This is what he's expecting from the European Union. And they're saying no, because they don't operate like that. I keep saying the European Union is like a ministry, like a government department. It's not like a country. And Trump probably doesn't understand that. He's expecting Ursula von der Leyen to go there and give him some sort of gift, like a plane or something, like the Arab states are doing. It's not going to happen. Now, this 50% tariff is basically an embargo. It's going to block goods from coming in, because there's a threshold where the tariff just becomes any number above that percentage is just useless because it's basically blocking all goods coming in. Now, the focus seems to be in the media about cheese or wine and stuff like that, but a huge amount of manufacturing equipment goes to the US from the European Union to go into factories, to build stuff, to make stuff in US factories. And this is going to be blocked. And the parts for those machines are going to be blocked because of this embargo. So I hope that Donald Trump is going to U-turn again in the future. But he has once again demonstrated to be an unreliable partner. You can't really negotiate with him unless you're going to give him something as a present. And it has to be giving not to the US, the people of the United States, not to the US government even, it's to Donald Trump himself. And the European Union doesn't act like that. Once again, individual member states may consider, okay, let's go to the White House and give Donald Trump a toy, and we'll get over this stumbling block. But something like the European Union can't do that. So I think we're going to see this problem rumble on. It's likely that he will postpone the tariffs again for another 2 or 3 months. But this creates a massive amount of uncertainty on both sides of the pond. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot.